What is up, guys? I'm Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health and social well-being. And today, as requested, I'm going to be helping you guys with building your shoulders, so 3D delts. Now, for those of you watching this who already like, man, my shoulders are bigger than his, why am I watching this? I promise you, no matter who you are, no matter how good shoulder genetics you have or don't have, whether it's lagging or you just enjoy training shoulders, this video will benefit you. I'm gonna be showing you how to best stimulate all heads of the shoulder, all three heads of the delts, as well as just giving you some general tips for training that apply to any lagging muscle group. So the first thing that you guys need to understand is that anytime you're doing any type of compound press movement, whether it's horizontal press, like some type of chest press like bench, or vertical press, the front head of your delt is very much activated, it's very much stimulated. Anytime you're doing any type of pull, whether it's pull-ups, bent over barbell rows, your rear delts are also working. However, for those of us who are really looking to maximize growth in that area, if it's something lagging, you're gonna wanna be able to hit some of these areas more directly. So the first piece of advice I'm gonna give you guys is gonna be, as usual, start off with compound movements. The main compound movements for your shoulders are gonna be some type of vertical pressing, whether it's barbell overhead press or whether it's dumbbell shoulder press. Now, I always recommend doing your shoulder presses standing for the mere fact that you're gonna get more muscle engagement as a whole from that. Whenever you're doing shoulder presses standing, your legs are having to work a little bit to keep you stabilized. When you're squeezing your glutes or doing overhead press, they're getting engagement. Your core is getting a lot of work and engagement. So especially for those of you involved in any type of athletics or just care about your health and overall functionality, you wanna do at least the first shoulder press standing. So what I like to do is barbell overhead press standing, and then after that, maybe go into dumbbell shoulder press and do that seated down just for extra volume. So what I'm gonna be doing as I take you guys through each head and each movement is giving you little quick brief tutorials of how to perform each movement. If you guys want a more in-depth tutorial for a specific movement, just let me know in the comments down below. So the first thing, barbell overhead press. So the first thing we want to know is hand placements. A lot of people have a tendency of trying to hold the bar wide, just like when they bench press. I think it's best to bring your grip in closer because it's going to just give you more tricep drive, and once again, longer range of motion. A longer range of motion means the muscles are doing more work. That includes our shoulders. We want our shoulders to do more total work so they can get more total growth from the movement. So the first thing is hand placement, right where the metal changes from rough to smooth. I like to grab it right in the middle, right there. So then from this point on, we want to come right under the bar, keep it right to our chest. Now before I even start, I like to get nice and tight, have a big breath, brace my core, come up, and notice the position. Notice my hands, I don't have them bent back like this, have them nice and upright. Feet, shoulder width apart, core engaged. You guys probably can't tell, but my glutes squeeze them nice and tight. I'm gonna drive the bar straight up. And as I do, I'm doing what's called sticking my head through the window. So as I drop straight up, boom, bring my head forward, the bar becomes the window, I stick my head through the window. The reason we do this is because if I'm pushing straight forward like so, the bar path isn't straight and that's gonna put unnecessary pressure on my shoulders. Whereas if I make sure I put my head through the window, boom, bar path is straight and it's a full range of motion because our shoulders want to rotate as well. Versus just pressing up, there's that rotation, boom. Good to go as far as that. So that's pretty much what it's gonna look like. Go ahead and show it from the side real quick too. So you guys can see my position. My elbows aren't flared out. They're nice and tucked. Feet shoulder width. Squeeze my glutes all the way up. And I come all the way down to my chest. Not to here, not to my chin, all the way down, all the way up. And we do that once again so we can have a full range of motion, but also because while we're at it, why not get a little bit of upper pec development as well? Since a lot of people seem to struggle with upper pec development, that's something you can do to help you right there, is just bring it all the way down to your chest. So that's the first movement for your the front part of your delts. All right guys, so next is gonna be dumbbell shoulder press. As you guys see, just got the 25s, going pretty light. Literally just hit shoulders with Russell yesterday, so I'm not even going to front for this tutorial. I'm just gonna show you guys the proper way to do the movements. Now, here's the one thing that I like about dumbbell shoulder press versus the barbell overhead press. I think the barbell overhead press is a little bit better for overall like strength, functionality, athletics, but with the dumbbell shoulder press, aside from, once again, any type of vertical press, working the front head, we're also working the lateral head a lot more simply due to the position that you're gonna be in. So the barbell, we're coming down here, but with the dumbbells, we're starting right here. So you're gonna get a little bit more work on your lateral head as well. Now, here's the big thing with dumbbell shoulder press. You'll see a lot of people, they press up, right? And they'll come out all the way out here, right? But once again, a lot of unnecessary pressure on our shoulders. We don't want that. So with almost any press, we wanna first retract your scapula, nice firm position. We're gonna press upward, and when we come down, we wanna come down nice and tucked. Heck, and for some of you, maybe just to make sure you're tucking, when you come down, you may wanna have the dumbbell spacing like so. just to make sure you're nice and tucked, and once again, a longer range of motion. Granted, you're gonna be able to lift more weight if you start here and then just stop right here because it's short range of motion, but your shoulders aren't doing as much work as coming all the way up, all the way down, nice and tucked. So with this, we're protecting our shoulders and we're gonna do a full range of motion. So in, tucked, up and in, down and tucked, up and in, down and tucked. And for those of you who may be having issues with your shoulders when you do your pressing motions, try doing it that way, and I promise you that's gonna help alleviate some of your problems right there. Okay, so the next move I'm gonna show you is front raises. Now there's lots of variations you can do this movement. You can do it with the barbell, you can do it with cables, you can do it with dumbbells, which I'm about to show you. Now, you'll hear a lot of people say that so long as you're doing plenty of compound pressing movements, there's really no need to do front raises as far as developing like the front head of your delt, because it's getting plenty of work and stimulation. And I actually tend to agree with that if you're doing enough pressing motions. However, if shoulders are a lagging area for you, or if you're someone where you know you only do shoulder pressing like once a week, and maybe you do bench press once a week. So for some of my men's trainers out there, all you do is like overhead press once a week, bench press once a week. If you want a little bit of extra volume for the front head of the delt, then your front raises are gonna help you as far as that. So there's two ways of going about it. We wanna be nice, upright, straight, back tight, just raising it forward. You can go alternating like so, or you can do both at the same time. Boom, boom, boom. Nice, simple, easy movement, but easy way to get some extra volume in on the front head of your delt.
Do we go parallel or do we go a little bit above that?
That's a great question too. So with this, a lot of people will tell you to bring it like all the way up here, but in actuality, when you understand biomechanics, like how our shoulders work, if you're coming right to parallel or even a little bit above it, that's plenty. You don't have to come all the way up here. And more often than not, as you gradually increasing the weight, mind you guys, you don't have to do a whole lot of weight for this starting off. The same rules of progressive overload apply. When you can get all your reps on all sets with proper form, then you're good to go. You can go ahead and increase the weight. But mind you, as the weight gets heavier, you're gonna have to start swinging if you're trying to get all the way up here. So it's really simple as coming to right about parallel or a little bit above. And if you go a little bit above, it's just to ensure that you're getting that full range of motion, versus if you aim for parallel, you may come a little bit below it. All right guys, so the next head that we're gonna focus on is the lateral head. Now mind you, as I said, it's getting some work whenever we do any type of vertical press, especially if you're doing a dumbbell shoulder press compared to a barbell. But the only way you're really gonna target that head correctly and maximize growth there is if you're doing some type of lateral raise. It can be once you can do cables or you can do dumbbells. For those of you who like maybe have like a higher, heavier weight intensity day and then a higher rep volume day, the way that I like to set up my training, I like to do dumbbells on my higher intensity day, and then I like to use cables on the more volume day, just to keep tension on the muscle throughout the entire movement. Now you can do these, once again, standing or seated. I prefer to do them standing, but you can do them seated as well, and I'll show you both just for an example. But with the lateral raises, so here's the thing. First thing to understand is that a lot of people have their arms just totally straight like this, and they come out almost like a cross. Problem with that is, once again, you can have a little bit of pressure on your shoulders. So what you want is not much, we're not coming up to here, but just a very slight bend in the arms. And then, rather than thinking you're coming like straight out to the side, it's almost like you're coming in between a full front raise and a full side raise. So we have this slight bend and we're coming up, boom, like so. So it's almost like it's right in between. And if you have that slight bend in your arms and you just raise them to your sides, you're gonna be in the proper position anyway. If my arms are straight and I raise them to my sides, they'll be kind of to the side like this, right out to my sides. If I get that slight bend and I raise them up, boom, we're right here, right in the perfect position. Now, there's a lot of back and forth, and I've addressed this in a previous video on how to adjust your movements to alleviate elbow and shoulder pain. There's a lot of people who will say when you're coming up, make sure that you're twisting your pinky up at the top. But then there's another group of people that say you don't want to do that because it can cause impingement of the shoulders. Now, my general rule and recommendation is that since you don't know necessarily if you're one of those individuals where it may cause you major impingement, because there are lots of people out there who, you know, every time they raise it up and they use the pinky, they seem to have no problems. But you guys know your boy's a man of science, and what the research shows is that every time you do that, there is issues being caused with your glenoid. There is a little bit of crushing in that area every single time. So in order to avoid that, guys, but still get, you know, benefits from the movements, just stop right at parallel. You're good, right there. There's no need to twist the pinky. Just come all the way up, boom, and you're good. The lateral head of your delt will be fully engaged. All right, guys, so next movement that I'm gonna be showing you guys is gonna be more emphasis on your rear delts. But this movement is something that all of you should be doing no matter what. I don't care if you really care about your shoulder growth or not, especially if you're someone who does a whole lot of heavy pressing movements, or someone who does a lot of like just back work. Any type of work you do as far as your upper body, this move is going to help you a lot, and that is the face pull. Now the face pull is beneficial for several reasons. On top of the fact that it is working our rear delts, it's just a great upper back movement as a whole. It helps with the trap development, but most importantly, it helps with shoulder health, mainly our rotator cuffs. And the reason that we want to make sure that's in a good, healthy position, guys, is understand this. Whenever you're bench pressing, what do I tell you guys? You don't want to be flat back. You want to retract your scapula. You don't have to do those crazy excessive arcs that you see so much powerlifters do, but you want to retract your scapula. When you're doing dumbbell shoulder press against the bench, you want to what? Retract your scapula. When you're doing a pull-up and you're coming up, you want to what? Retract your scapula. So this movement is not only going to help you with overall posterior chain development in the upper part of your posterior chain, but it's going to keep your shoulders healthy to help you with your heavy pressing moves. So if you're someone where you're like, man, I don't even really care about back, I just want a stronger bench, this is going to help you with that, because it's going to keep your shoulders healthy so you can lift stronger for longer. So keep that in mind. So the first thing you want to do, and you'll have some people, and I myself used to do this, where I used to have it way higher up, but you really want it about eye level. That's where you're going to want the rope to be. From here, you want to step back. Make sure that your arms are fully extended, but the cable's already pulled out. Next, you want to, once again, retract your scapula. So we have nice and retracted. And as far as hand positions, guys, different people hold it different ways. Some people hold it like so. Some people hold it with their hands over. But the way that I teach you guys is when you have your hands, you want your palms really facing each other. Then as you pull towards your face, really more specifically your forehead, and the reason you want to pull towards your forehead is keep your elbows high. As you pull, your palms are going to face the ground. Boom. Boom. And the reason I say your forehead is if I just focus on pulling towards my face, my elbows aren't quite as high. But if I focus on pulling towards my forehead, boom, elbows stay nice and high. And you want a nice brief squeeze. So go ahead and lift them, see from the back. So like with any other concentric motion, you can be explosive, brief squeeze, and control the eccentric. Brief squeeze, control the eccentric. Brief squeeze, control the eccentric. Once again, that brief squeeze, guys, is just to make sure that you're really engaging the rear head of the delts. Once again, this is a great overall movement for health as a whole, which is why it's my go-to rear delt movement. But now I'm going to show you one more rear delt movement, and then I'll give you just a couple more tips for your overall shoulder growth. All right, guys, so last move we're going to be showing you for today is going to be rear delt flies. Once again, different ways you can go about doing this. You can do bent over dumbbell rear delt flies. You can be seated and do dumbbell rear delt flies. For me, I like to do them on the pec deck, just reverse. Two ways of going about it. First one's just seated. We're bringing it out, squeeze. Squeeze. So here's the thing. Some of you may have like a little bit of hypermobility, in which case, if you're trying to go all the way back, I can't necessarily do this, but you might come back too far, like so. That's not necessary. So what you want, make sure you're keeping your chest against the pad, and you're bringing it back, boom, squeeze. So if I try to go back any further than this, my chest is gonna come off the pad. So as long as you're keeping your chest against the pad, you come back, boom, that's perfectly far enough. Now for me personally, I don't like to do it sitting down. I prefer to do it standing, just because once again, it kind of helps alleviate what we were just talking about as far as coming back too far. So I lean, chest is against it, bring it back, boom. So with this, it's really hard for me to go much further than that. Mind you guys, I'm not holding it for 3 or 5 seconds, just a very brief squeeze to make sure I'm emphasizing that contraction. Once again, there's lots of versions of rear delt flies you can do. There's other movements for your rear delts in general, but those are my two go-to. Mainly the face pulls, and then I can follow it up with some type of rear delt fly. All right guys, so now that I've briefly given you tutorials over those movements, once again, if you want me to go in more detail on any of those movements specifically, like a full in-depth tutorial, just let me know in the comments down below. Now I'm just gonna give you, once again, just some general guidelines and tips to help you with your shoulder growth. So the first one, obviously, from showing you all those movements, is to make sure that you're focusing on every head of the delts. If you want the 3D delts, you need to hit all 3 heads of the delts. So if you have some type of compound vertical pressing motion, either barbell overhead press, dumbbell shoulder press, and then you combine that with front raises, or if you're just making sure you're doing enough pressing as a whole, whether it's through dips, bench press, overhead press, etc., then the front head is covered. For the lateral head, lateral raises. That's pretty much the best way to really target that group, whether it's with dumbbells, cables, and then of course with rear delts, you have rear delt flies, you have face pulls, anything that's gonna really focus on it. So that's the first thing, make sure you're hitting it from all directions. A lot of you will tell me, man, I don't understand, man, why are my shoulders looking the way I want? I do a lot of pressing. Okay, that's great. The front head's gonna get a lot of development, but once again, you need to do more accessory and isolation work if you're really trying to work on the lateral head and then the rear head. The second thing, guys, and this can apply to, once again, any lagging muscle group, and I've talked about this before, is frequency. If you're someone who's, let's say you're doing a traditional growth split and you're only hitting your shoulders once a week, well, first of all, you guys already know, you should be hitting every muscle group a minimum of twice a week if you're just trying to have pretty effective muscle growth. But if it's a lagging muscle group, meaning that means it's either growing slower compared to everything else, or maybe the muscles around it are just growing a little bit faster, hit it at least 3 times a week. If you're, maybe in some cases, for some of you, maybe even 4 times a week, depending on what your total workload is weekly, whatever you can sustain. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to do so much shoulder pressing and so many shoulder movements to where you start having issues because you're irritating like the areas as far as like the bones, the joints, and everything like that. But if it's a lagging muscle group, then hit it with a little bit more total workload, a little bit more frequency. Now, I can also say that in some instances, hit it with a little bit more volume. But when I say volume, mind you, I'm talking about the total weekly volume, because it does no good if you're only hitting your shoulders once a week and you're like, man, I upped my volume. Yes, you upped your volume, but no matter how much work you do on Monday, that growth for that muscle group, due to how protein synthesis works, stops 48 hours later, which means by Wednesday, if you're not hitting it again, the growth has stopped. It doesn't matter how much work you put into it. Whereas if you just do a little bit more work throughout the week, hitting it 2-3 times a week, you're gonna get more bang for your buck as far as overall growth in your shoulder area. So that's the next thing, is just upping your frequency. And then the last thing is understanding, once again, this applies to every muscle group, guys, is progressive overload as well as utilizing various rep ranges. So what I mean by that, you guys already know that the key for naturals to growing muscle is to gradually get stronger. When I say get stronger, I'm not talking about your 1 rep max, I'm talking about gradually doing more work. If you're doing 3 sets of 10 with 100 pounds, make that 3 sets of 10 with 105 pounds. If you're doing 3 sets of 10 with 100 pounds, make that 3 sets of 11 with 100 pounds. You need to be increasing your total workload in some form or another. Now, the way that I like to structure it, once again, is to have set days that are focused more on intensity, which means fewer reps, more weight, and then have set days that are focused more on total volume. So lighter weight, more reps. So for example, with my compound movements, I'll probably do 3 sets of 5 on barbell overhead press or dumbbell shoulder press on the intensity day. Then I'll do sets of 10 on the volume day. Now here's where people miss it. They'll do that for their compounds, but with their accessory work, they're just doing the same stuff over and over. Now granted, as long as you're progressing on your compounds, you're still getting a little bit more accessory volume with those movements, but you need to be progressing on those as well. Meaning, if I'm doing 3 sets of 10 with face pull or 3 sets of 10 on lateral raises, then that means I need to gradually be progressing on that. So if on my intensity day, I'm doing sets of 10 on my isolation work, and maybe on my volume day, I'm doing sets of 12 to 15, that's okay, but I'm still focusing on progressively overloading. Meaning if I start off with 20-pound dumbbells on lateral raises for 3 sets of 10, and I get all 3 sets of 10 with proper form, the next time maybe I'll do 22.5 or 25 pounds. Same thing if it's 12 to 15 reps, just gradually getting stronger on those movements. That's what's gonna allow you to get growth, guys. Because honestly, think about it. If you're hitting it with enough frequency and total weekly volume, if you're gradually getting stronger on all the movements, and all your movements are covering all heads of your delts, it is impossible for your shoulders not to grow. Now, mind you, understand this. The reason that that some people, unless you're just genetically blessed, and understand that some of you guys are just gonna be genetically blessed with shoulders, the reason that we'll tend to see faster growth in other areas is, once again, guys, the shoulder is a very small muscle group, which means we're not able to load it with as much weight as we can our chest, our back, our legs. Since we can't do as much total workload with our shoulders, because doing too much weight too quickly or just due to overuse injuries can cause injuries and problems, that's why you're not going to be able to move weight as quickly. You're not going to be able to, like, think about it. You progress on your bench press way faster than your overhead press. Why? Well, your bench press includes your chest, your tris, your shoulders. The overhead press is primarily focused just on your shoulders and your triceps. So always keep that in mind as well. But so long as you utilize these tips, so long as you start incorporating these movements and you're doing enough total workload and gradually increasing that, you will see shoulder growth. So yeah, that's it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Hope you enjoyed the tips. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you did. If you're not, leave a comment down below. Let me know what I or my assistant Tia can do to get better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific. I'll catch y'all later.